Okay, so this is part 2 to my video blog, which is the journey to my diagnosis. So after having the nose drip for a while, we decided to go ahead and make an appointment to see the doctor. And we went in to see my doctor, and we began to tell him about the symptoms, and I also told him about my research and that I had found the CSF leak. And he began to ask me if I had a head injury, and I told him no. So he told me, you know, the same as my husband, he didn't think that was what I was dealing with. So he prescribed me some allergy medicine and sinus medicine, which was routine considering me coming in saying that I had a nose drip. So after going home, taking that medication, the drip didn't get any better. So I decided to go back again. And this time he decided to just put me on something a little bit stronger for a little longer. And I continued to have the drip. And I decided after a couple of weeks of still dealing with it, I needed to go back to the doctor again. And when I tried to make an appointment, he was not in at the time, so I decided to go ahead and see a local doctor at a clinic that was a little closer to home. So I went in and I began to tell him, you know, all the symptoms I'd had, all the different medications I had taken, from antibiotics to antihistamines, allergy, sinus medications, steroids, everything I had been taking. And my husband wasn't with me this time. So I decided to go ahead and let the doctor know that I had been researching and had found a CSF leak. And I wanted to know if maybe that's what was going on with me. So he asked me again, have I had a head injury? And again, of course, I told him no, I hadn't had a head injury. So he was a little skeptical as well, but he decided to refer me to an allergist. So at this point, I ended up going to an allergist who was great, and he began to tell me thought maybe he could figure out what was going on with me. So after the examination, he sent me in to get a CT scan, and he told me he would give me a call the next day, let me know what my results was. So I was a little hopeful at this point, thinking, okay, I'm about to get a diagnosis for sure. So it was a little alarming because he called me the next morning around 7 a.m., which is a little early for a doctor to give you a call. And he began telling me he wanted to go ahead and refer me to an ENT. And, you know, I became a little alarmed, but he reassured me that he was sending me to someone that I would be in great hands, because this was also his dad's doctor. So I went on and I saw the ENT, which was Dr. Annan, and I began telling him, you know, just what all was going on with me, and the symptoms, the medications that I had taken. And just prior to going to him the night before, my mom contacted me about an article that she had read, and it was about a lady in Arizona whose name is Andrea Lejeune. And it said that the lady had almost died from having a CSF leak that had been misdiagnosed as being allergies and sinuses. So as I read the article, my husband also came in the room to tell me that his mom had read a similar article, and we had even discussed that I had talked to my mom. So after, you know, getting the information from both my mom and my mother-in-law, my husband and I just kind of began to prepare ourselves for what, you know, may happen at the next appointment, which was with Dr. Annan, the ENT. So he began to tell me, you know, he just wanted to know what was it that I thought was going on with me. And I told him I had pretty much diagnosed myself as having a CSF leak. And after explaining to him that the fluid I taste that drained down the back of my throat, which was also the fluid dripping from my nose, tastes salty, he told me, unfortunately, I think you may be right. So he looked at my CT scan, and he told me that he could see the area where the fluid had built up. And he was almost for sure he knew exactly where the area was, where the leak was coming from. But he wanted to send me for an MRI. So I went for the MRI. He also had me to give him a sample of the fluid coming from my nose in a specimen cup, which was sent off to a lab. And it took about a week for that to come back in. And after getting those results back, it did test positive for brain fluid. And after getting a positive result from that, it became a little, you know, disturbing to me. Although I had been reading about a CSF leak, I hadn't really just taken it all in, because I really didn't know much about it, and neither did my family. So I began to really research this condition, and I found that what a CSF leak is it's cerebrospinal fluid, which is the fluid that's contained in and around the spine and also around the brain. And when there's damage to the dura, the fluid will leak down through the sinus cavity, which causes it to leak through my nose. And at this point, I began to really just read, and I just wanted to know more about it, because it was something that none of us had ever heard of. And after reading, I also found a support group that's on Facebook and it's titled CSF Leak. And I began to just realize that I wasn't the only one that was dealing with this, and I wouldn't be alone, and there was other people that I could actually reach out to. And that's where my third blog will come in at. I'll discuss more with you about the support group that I was able to find.
There's so much going on. Sometimes I can't find